So Mario, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me on.
We've got a lot to talk about today. I know some different topics we're going to cover in terms of what brands should watch for and some interesting stories you have of things you've helped brands uncover or solve with Amazon in the past. But I'd first love to tell us a little about yourself and the company and how you kind of got started.
So name's Mario Simonian. I'm the founder of ESQgo. Now, if we rewind back to law school, that's when I started selling on Amazon, Ryan. I think it was in my second year of law school when everyone in law school was going out getting jobs. I was like, I really don't want to get a job. And I've never really had, well, I guess I've had jobs. My preference has always been to, have my own stuff. And I remember I came across a YouTube video from Daniel Morat. And he was talking about how you could buy things from China, put your brand on it, and then sell it on Amazon. It's like, this can't be that easy, right? So I placed an order, and at the time, my first order was this 3-in-1 avocado slicer, dicer, pitter. I brought it in about 1,000 units, and I sold those out. I was like, this is super cool. So and then I just added more and more products, kitchenware, home goods, and then soon thereafter, I had a brand. So fast forward, I'm out of law school, I've passed the bar, and I've got 2 brands now. And at that point, I was like, okay, it's maybe time for me to make that transition into law. And I didn't know what area to really go into. And I just looked at the intersection of, I know Amazon PL, I know Amazon, and I know the law, right? So it's like, why not just start a law firm? And that was really the birth of ESQgo. And I remember when I sold the brands, I was doing all this sort of research about whether there's a market or not for a law firm dedicated to Amazon sellers. And I remember everything I looked at, Ryan, every sort of experiment or research I did, it came back as, nope, stay away. And I was like, you know what? Let's just try it. Let's see what happens. And here we are. In June, it'll be our 6th year.
Wow, that's awesome. What a story, too. Usually when you get those, like you said, those warning signs of there's no market, it's stay away. But you were onto something for sure. And I think you said 6 years ago, that puts it, 2018? That was really when I think, I can think of it like probably the height or close to, just Amazon, just complexity and problems really started to raise with Amazon. And they're really going after people as the marketplace got bigger and bigger on certain things. So it could get very thorny out there. Great story, great start. And tell me, fast forward to now and now. So what do all you guys do? What do you cover as far as a law firm is concerned when it comes to e-commerce?
Sure. So 99% of our clients are either Amazon sellers or Walmart.com sellers. And we help with anything from the basic account reinstatement, erase and reinstatement, all the way up to Amazon lost or destroyed my inventory. Let's get a reimbursement, or Amazon is holding my funds, all the way to arbitration on the Amazon front. And then with respect to IP, we'll go ahead and help sellers or brand owners register their trademark and copyright, but also enforce their IP. And that's something new we started to do last year, where we'll take those cases on contingency and help out these brands. Because before, what would happen is clients would come to us, right, and they'll say, I've got this trademark, or I've got this copyright, or I've got this patent, and I've got about 100 infringers. And our response, just like any other attorney's response, was, how much money do you have? Because if you don't have at least $750K, maybe closer to $1 million, we're not going to be taking this case, because that's usually how much it takes to litigate these cases, and you don't even know if you're going to get any money back. So what we did is we sort of flipped that on its head and said, you know what? We'll go ahead and evaluate your case. If you've got a strong enough case, we'll take that on contingency. Whatever we're able to get from the infringers as royalty, then we'll go ahead and split that with you. So it's a completely no-risk solution to these brands, and that's been super successful for us and for the brands.
Yeah. And it's a natural evolution, like you said, evolving into your services of how you serve these different brands. Would you say people come to you, I think I know the answer, I want to hear from you, proactively and before there's an issue, or is it always when they're calling you panicking and I've got X, Y, Z happen to my Amazon account, or Amazon's holding this much money? What do you typically see?
Yeah, good question. So people usually come to us when they do have an issue, right? For example, you're not going to come to us unless your account's reinstated, right? So that's on that front. But on the more proactive side, those we try to also focus on, and those are people that want to get their trademarks or copyrights registered, or they want to set out a plan to help protect their IP so they don't have infringers coming on board and ruining the marketplace. So we see a little bit of both, but I would say most of it, Ryan, is going to be those emergencies coming in and saying, my business is on fire, help me out.
Yeah. I know. I think you said before, it's not a question of if, but when, right? Like anyone who's been on Amazon for a number of years is typically running into some kind of issue with Amazon, whether it be a product suspension, account suspension, or issues with payments or inventory. You see a lot behind the scenes of Amazon, right? And just from hearing people's different cases, talk about like their systems on what you've just seen from your guys' side on how these things happen and how hard it can be to resolve them just the normal means.
So I think any small business owner looks at Amazon and says, well, they've got 1 million plus employees. They're $1 trillion company. So they've got their SOPs in place. They've got their processes in place. They've got all their people trained. So everything is going to work very smoothly, right? And the reality is so far removed from that. They've got 1 million plus employees. Not very many of them are well trained. Their SOPs, I don't think, are always followed. Even their processes, their bots, their algorithms that they have don't always function the way that they're intended to function, right? And that's why we'll get people that are suspended for things that they shouldn't have been suspended. So I think that was the main thing that I realized when I moved from being a seller to actually working on helping sellers before Amazon and before the AAA arbitration proceedings is Amazon doesn't have all their ducks in a row, right? And that's why they have to spend so much money on attorneys.
Yeah. I'm sure you get people that come to you at all stages of whether I've been suspended and I've been trying to resolve for the past 6 months, or it just happened last night. I got an email when I woke up this morning. Is it more complex to kind of unwind the situations where more time has passed and there's been more support cases opened at Amazon internally, just kind of muddying the waters?
So I always suggest if you know what you're doing, and I think there's a very small percentage of Amazon sellers that know what they're doing with respect to the appealing process, right? If you know what you're doing, fine, try whatever you can. But the super majority of them, I don't think are well versed in helping themselves get reinstated, right? We work with this on a daily basis. I don't think there's any seller that could say they work on as many cases as we do, right? Because this is what we do. I always suggest that, hey, I'd rather, if you're not 100% confident in you knowing what you're doing, come to us, all right? Let us take from the first step all the way to the last step. But those small percentage of sellers that actually know what they're doing and they've got 5, 10, 15 years of experience, fine, go ahead and try it and then bring it to us in the scenario that you're unable to get it resolved. And something else that we've recently started, and I'll talk to you about, is our success guarantee. So for some time now, we've always been sort of the last resort for sellers. And I think our Google reviews reflect that. If you go through that, people have come to us where they've tried other consultants, other law firms, and they've essentially given up until they get to us. And we're like, you know what? Obviously, I can't guarantee anything, but let's give it a shot. So it's like knowing that we've been able to resolve issues like that sort of has given us the confidence to always say, you know what, we believe that we're the best in the business. So it's like, finally, it's like, let's just put our money where our mouth is. If you come to us and we're unable to resolve, or I should say reinstate your Amazon account, your ASIN, or your Walmart.com account, and you find someone else that can do it, we'll go ahead and pay you back whatever money you paid us. That just goes to show, like, we know how good we are. So if we can't do it, I don't believe anyone can. I guess that's the whole thing of what I do and what I find so fun with running this firm is our mission is to provide these online entrepreneurs with creative yet logical legal solutions. And I think with IPX, which is the contingency IP enforcement that I talk about, with synthetic arbitration, which we've had for a while now and has been super successful, and now this guarantee, I think that's what really sets us apart. And going forward, we'll look for more opportunities like that to really serve the online sellers.
It's always great to have guarantees, and obviously makes people feel that much more comfortable engaging with the firm, right? And talk to us a little about the process, because I think when people are dealing with Amazon, whether it be a brand that's just getting on there or a brand that's been on there for years, and they've got maybe even like in-house counsel, and they've got the attorney they always use for everything. Talk to us about how Amazon's different, because it's not just opening cases, what you're doing. You're actually talking to their outside counsel. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. So there's a lot of clients that we have that are very large brands, and they have their army of attorneys. But when it comes to anything Amazon related, they'll usually reach out to us because Amazon, we treat that as its own sovereign nation. And I think any attorney or sort of general counsel of a brand will soon realizes that. And they're like, you know what, this isn't what I'm used to, right? So it's a whole new world. So that's why they'll reach out to us. But yeah, we've got several clients like that who can afford and do have an army of lawyers, but anything Amazon related, they'll still come to us, right? Just because the process is completely different. And the process changes. And I'm sure you know this too, Ryan. It's for the last 6 years, it may be, you know what, A plus B equals C. But then all of a sudden you realize, you know what, A plus B actually equals F. And I think unless you're in the weeds every day, you're unable to sort of catch something like that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Amazon always, you're playing in their sandbox, right? So they're always changing the rules, and you got to stay up on that and know what's happening. You mentioned a little bit ago just about, there's obviously other players that kind of serve these similar needs, but talk to us about using like a law firm, like with attorneys such as yourself versus maybe just like a standard consultant when it comes to resolving issues with Amazon.
Sure. So a couple things. First, let me look at the attorneys versus consultants, and then I'll talk about our law firm versus other law firms. So as far as attorneys versus consultants, so by law, consultants can't provide any legal advice. So this really comes out when we're having IP issues or when the client has IP issues, intellectual property issues. By law, consultants are unable to look at two trademarks or sort of a mark and a registered trademark and say, yeah, I think you're infringing or you're not infringing because of this and this reason. So that's actually considered unauthorized practice of law, and the state can actually come after you. Now, does that happen? No, not really, unless it's something that's wide scale, right? But that is illegal. This long-standing tradition that only attorneys can provide legal advice, right? So that's one of the main differences. Number two, I would say the difference between consultants and attorneys is attorneys have a sort of a governing body, an oversight committee, think of it that way, which is the state bar. Each attorney is registered with at least one state, and that's who they report to. So if any of our clients, for example, have any issues with us, they could go to the state bar, just like you could do it with any other attorney that you hire, right? Now, with consultants, you don't have that. So I would say those are the two main things. The third one, if I were to add a third one, is Amazon sellers, even though your case may not ever get to arbitration before the AAA, AAA is the American Arbitration Association, you still want someone with experience, just so Amazon knows, okay, they're represented by a law firm that has taken us, Amazon, before the AAA. So those are three things that I think really separates the law firms between consultants. Now, with respect to us and any law firm, now, there's law firms that have similar experience just like we do, right? But I think for anyone looking at hiring a law firm, I think you should look at, number one, do they have AAA arbitration experience? And are they really focused on Amazon law, or is Amazon a small part of what they do? For example, they do divorce, they do bankruptcy, they do personal injury, car accidents, but they also do Amazon, right? It's like try to avoid something like that and try to go with someone that actually has Amazon experience and focuses on Amazon. Because what we've seen in the last year or so is a lot of law firms sort of add that they do Amazon law as a small portion of what they do. But we haven't seen that same expertise, and just realistically looking at it, Amazon, like we said, Amazon's always changing. So unless you've got a team that's constantly working on those cases and constantly trying to have their ear to the ground, it's very difficult to be kept abreast of all the changes.
Yeah, you're speaking my language there, Mario. We run into the same thing with other agencies, right? As we talk to a lot of brands and run up against other agencies, and obviously there'll be agencies that say, hey, we'll help you with your Facebook and Instagram marketing, we'll do your website and Shopify and Google and all that, and Amazon, and some do okay with it, but then Amazon's kind of this small sliver thing, and it's a whole other animal, like you said. It's like a very complex ecosystem. We see that on the agency side as well, so definitely can sympathize with you there. When it comes to look back at Amazon, the whole marketplace, a lot of the reason Amazon's been so successful as a company and growing the .com is because of their marketplace. Anybody can put anybody else's products up there. So let's talk about that from a few angles, right? There's been this evolution on Amazon of different stages of what's been popular on Amazon, how those products have gotten out there. Can you talk a little bit about that and just how you see those evolutions, maybe where you see it going too?
Yeah. So I think back when I used to sell about 10, 12 years ago, I think it was a lot easier, meaning we could just bring in any quote unquote Me Too product and it would sell, right? If Ryan and 10 of his other friends all have brands selling pens that all look like this, I could probably bring in the same thing, maybe differentiate a little on color or something and be okay. Nowadays, I think it's completely changed, right? I'm on a few fronts. Number one, the private label side, I think you now need what I call private label 2.0, where you need to have a strong brand or some sort of patent that really protects it and creates a moat around your brand or your product. But I think that's where it's headed. Those Me Too products, I don't think work as well right now. And I think slowly they'll deteriorate away. With respect to dropshipping, Amazon and Walmart.com both have been very aggressive with stopping dropshippers. And I know that they've invested millions of dollars into that. So that's dropshipping. I don't think dropshipping is a future, and I don't think it ever was. Unless you're doing it on Shopify, something like that, fine. But if we're talking about the Amazon and Walmart world, I don't think dropshipping has a future. With respect to wholesaling, I think wholesaling, we're already seeing this on our front with clients coming in where the brands that were wholesaling their products are now stepping in. Because, for example, if I'm a wholesaler, again, of this pen, and I've been wholesaling it to you, and I see Ryan's buying 100,000 units from us a month.
Yeah.
And here on this other side, I've got revenue down. Can you look in what Ryan's doing? And they come back and say, well, he's selling on Amazon, right? Soon they're going to come in and we're going to say, you know what? Thank you, Ryan, for creating all these listings. We may have given you permission to brand registry, but we'll take that back, right? Whether voluntarily or involuntarily, because we've had cases like that too, where the person doesn't want to give away brand registry rights. And that's something we can do because the trademark owner is owned by the brand itself. So that's what I see on the wholesale front. Now, wholesale, I don't see a future in wholesale either, right? Same thing, online arbitrage or just any sort of arbitrage. I think that's going to go away too. And we're seeing that now with Amazon requesting invoices and doing sort of these IPI interviews. So that's what I'm saying. I think ultimately Amazon wants brands on there. And in order for you to really compete with your brand, you need to have some sort of real moat around it. Again, IP, trademark, real brand, or some sort of patent.
Yeah. We see the same thing over the last couple of years as far as brands taking it back from distributors and wholesalers. Amazon's been run amok with their products. And it's been, again, they look at it as one angle of being successful. Hey, I'm selling this product either way. I don't have to mess with it. I just sell wholesale. But then all of a sudden it's, wait a second, I'm losing control of the brand. I'm losing control of price points, and it's eroding away at maybe kind of our brand equity, frankly, as well, because so many customers now just turn to Amazon by default. And the average Joe doesn't know who the seller is. They don't really care. They just know, especially on mobile where you can't even see the seller really. You don't really pay attention to it as much. Maybe on desktop, I look at it a little more, but like you just hit buy and it's at your doorstep in a day or two. Yeah, we see the same thing with brands. So, and let's talk about that a little bit. A lot of brands have had to deal with third-party sellers, right? And again, Amazon's the marketplace. A lot of the success of it has been because of that marketplace angle. But when it's brands and then third-party sellers competing, what can brands do to help limit that? I know it's from a legal standpoint, can they at all? I know there's some obviously things within Amazon they can do, but I guess from your angle, what's the best way for a brand to control more of that channel themselves as much as possible?
Sure. So I think we need to bifurcate that issue into, are the unauthorized sellers located here in the United States or are they outside the United States? If they're outside the United States, it's easy. That's something we could do with IPX. That's our contingency IP enforcement that we talked about. But where it gets more difficult is when they're here inside the United States, right? There's something called the first sale doctrine that says once you sell a product, your rights to that brand, that trademarks are extinguished. So if I buy this iPhone from Apple, I could do whatever I want with it. I could sell it for $1. I could break it. I could paint on it. I could have my kids draw on it. I can do whatever I want with it. And anytime these brands approach these unauthorized sellers, that's the first thing that these sellers will say is, hey, first sale doctrine, get away from here. What they don't recognize is that there's an exception to the first sale doctrine. It's called material difference, right? And what material difference is, it says, if you're going to be selling the same product and I'm not the brand owner, I'm just another seller. If I'm selling Apple phones, then the consumer should get the same bundle of benefits that it would get if it were to buy it from Apple directly or any of their authorized distributors, right? So this takes some legwork and sort of pre-planning on the brand side, but there's several factors that the courts have looked at that really are these material differences. For example, if my units have a battery that is not as strong or not as the same quality as Amazon, that could be considered material difference. If there's any changes in the packaging, such as alterations or modifications to the UPC or anything on the brand, that could be considered material difference. If the brand itself offers a pre-sale or a post-sale support guarantee, and I can't do that because it's only authorized and offered by the brand, that could be something else too. And there's about 12 different factors that we look at. But that's one way that we could approach these unauthorized sellers. You're not offering a pre-sale support service or a post-sale support service, so this would be considered material difference, and therefore you're infringing on our client's brand because now you're deteriorating their brand, right? Think of it that way. So that's one way that we can approach it. Now, is this a sort of silver bullet? Absolutely not. I think in our experience, what we've seen is about 75, 85% of the sellers will go away once they get a letter from a law firm saying this is an exception to the first sale doctrine, and then explaining all that to them and informing them how they are infringing. But there will be a small percentage that still stick around. And I understand them too, because they've invested all this money. They're not going to go away so easily. So at that point, it's either communicating directly with them and saying, what is it you want? I'm going to make your life hell unless you go away. So do you want to really sell my product, or do you want to go down the street and sell someone else's product, right? Or it's communicating that to Amazon and saying, Amazon, here's what's going on, right? This isn't your traditional trademark infringement, but it's material difference. So getting Amazon involved. Or worst case scenario, suing them.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's very fascinating.
Yeah, it's not like a silver bullet. It's not like it's something that can be done right away, but it is a lengthier process.
Yeah. Well, like you said, if you can get rid of, 75% of the time, they're going to go away after a letter. That could be a big win there, because we see it again directly with some of the clients we work with that have just kind of these looser distribution channels, not by any of their own fault, but just as you grow as a brand and get into retail and sell to distributors, the product just starts being available in more places in the gray market of where it can be purchased. So it's as much as possible. Obviously, brands are trying to protect that, right?
Yeah, you actually bring up a great point, because some of it isn't always a legal solution, right? Some of it is just, hey, you've got some leaks or you've got some holes in your supply chain. We had a client who was selling over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, and they learned that from CVS and Walgreens, inventory was missing from there and winding up on Amazon. So sometimes it's just making sure that your supply chain is as tight as it can be.
Yeah. Obviously, there's Amazon programs out there. One of them being transparency, which can help with that. But yeah, we've seen that some success there in trying to limit resellers. But again, it's not a silver bullet, just like some of the things you discussed there as well. I'm curious, you've done a lot of different work with a lot of companies and helping them. What's one of the big success stories that really sticks out to you is, wow, that was a huge difference we made for that firm, and Amazon was really wrong in that case. And talk to us about that, a success you're really proud of.
Yeah, so there's a few that sort of comes to mind and have really sort of made an impression on me. One of them was, it's a Vendor Central seller, and Amazon had lost or destroyed when I say a couple million, it's really about $12 million worth of inventory.
Oh.
So they tried working with a few other consultants and attorneys, and they were unable to get anything really resolved. And we were able to go to Amazon's outside legal counsel. This is a law firm in Seattle that represents Amazon, and they got about $12 million back. So I thought that was a good win. We had another client similar to that, Canada, very similar situation. There was about 2 million or 1.8. It was a Canadian dollar, so I'm not sure how the conversion was, but it was like $1.2 million. From there, I think we have to look at the sort of the IP enforcement side and how well that's worked. A few of our clients on that IP enforcement contingency side, they're small mom and pop shops that can never afford a legal service like this, right? Like I said, it costs $750,000 or more.
Yeah.
And with this, we were able to put back in their pocket, some of them about $250,000. And I think the most we've done with one of our clients is about $500,000. That's in their pocket. And again, we're still not done. We're still working on that case just because it's so widespread.
I was going to say, you're getting money back in their pocket, but also helping the brand. I mean, the other side of it is this: how much is it helping their brand? Because these people that are enforcing on their products are gone, hopefully, right? So that's the big thing,
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Because they have to sign an agreement saying that they're not going to infringe again. So it's not that the only thing isn't that they're just paying us royalties. They have to sign an agreement saying that they're not going to infringe again.
Yeah.
As people usually don't come back. Right.
Yeah.
Because
once
you take money from someone, it's likely that they're going to take that risk again.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting your hand out with the dog that always bites. If it bites you once, you're probably not going to put your hand out again. So yeah, I like it.
And you're also not going to tell your wife or your cousin or your friend to go try that dog, right?
Yeah. Go pet that dog. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Looking ahead, Mario, Amazon's always changing. The law is changing too. I'm not a lawyer, but it's just there's always cases that are overturning precedent, maybe here or there. But anything you see looking ahead that's you're noticing happening right now, or you maybe see happening the next year or two when it comes to regards to Amazon, maybe the IP side of it?
So Amazon side, we've been seeing Amazon building these relationship with these luxury brands, right? We've seen a lot of these larger brands build these relationships with Amazon, and it seems like, obviously I don't have any proof, but what it seems like is Amazon then says, oh, Ryan, you're in charge of, for example, YSL or Gucci. Why don't you invest $10 million with us a month to advertise, and we'll take care of your unauthorized sellers. So that's sort of what we see. Again, there's no way for me to prove it, and obviously Amazon will never admit to something like that. But we do see in the last couple of months where a lot of these cologne and fragrance brands, their sellers, unauthorized sellers, are randomly getting hit with IPI interviews and saying, let me see your invoices. So we are seeing that. And then on the legal side, we're seeing those brands also take action and actually sue people that are selling that are not on Amazon. So that's one thing that we are seeing. And I think we'll see that continue with Amazon, where Amazon really goes after these established luxury brands or just established brands. So that's why earlier I said, I don't see the whole scene being very profitable or having any longevity. With respect to the law side, there's no laws that the law changes a lot slower than Amazon and e-commerce does. But there's nothing that's been really relevant except for the strategies that we're employing with our IPX program. But other than that, I think we can't dismiss Temu and the marketplace in general, just e-commerce in general, and the effect that they'll have. A couple of weeks ago, they started offering their platform to U.S. sellers. And I like that. I like that there's additional competition to Amazon, because now Amazon has been in abusive relations with really all sellers, right? Because it's the only way you could really describe it is if they get to do whatever they want to you and you really can't leave it, go anywhere else, that's an abusive relationship. So I'm hoping that things change for the long run, but in the meantime, we'll still be here. When everything is working the way it's supposed to, is the day that my law firm no longer needs to exist. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, I don't think that day is coming around anytime soon. Maybe with the complexity that is selling on Amazon. Well, Mara, this has been fascinating. Just lots of a peek behind the curtain, really, I think, for everybody to be able to see from your side how it is dealing with the Amazon, what the kind of thing, and obviously how brands can start to protect themselves and maybe go after also some of these folks that are infringing on their patents and their IPs. This has been great. Where can folks find you or find your company?
Sure. So they could go to our website, ESQgo. They could find us on Facebook and also on Instagram.
Awesome. All right. Mario, thanks so much again. And thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ryan.